Hello and welcome to Industry Spotlight with Creative First. Our guest today is Siddharth Roy Kapoor, founder and managing director, Roy Kapoor Films. He has produced some of the biggest blockbusters in Indian cinema like Dangal and Chennai Express, in addition to films that have broken the mold like Barfi, Kai Poche, and Haider. His latest production, Last Film Show, was shortlisted in the Best International Feature Film category at the 95th Oscars, being the fourth Indian film to ever make it to this stage. His recent productions include the popular crime thriller series Aranyak and the historical drama series Rocket Boys, which bagged the Filmfare OTT Award for Best Series. In 2023, Siddharth was invited to be a member of the prestigious Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. He is the former managing director of the Walt Disney Company India, and he serves as a managing trustee of the Mumbai Academy of the Moving Image that runs the Mami Mumbai Film Festival. He also holds the position of co-chairman of the CII Media and Entertainment Committee. He was elected president of the Producers Guild for 6 consecutive terms. He has been listed on the prestigious Variety 500 list of most influential people in global entertainment for the last 6 years running. Siddharth, welcome to this discussion.
Thanks so much for having me, Loisa.
What are some of the key developments that you've seen in the last year that will shape the future of the industry?
In the last year, I'd say there were obituaries being written about the theatrical experience, and for all good reason, because post-COVID, most people were wondering whether audiences would come back to cinemas or not. I think the good news is that this last year has shown us that people really value that big screen theatrical experience and want to enjoy that with their friends and families in large numbers. And when they come, they really come. So you've seen some of the biggest blockbusters in Indian cinema actually play themselves out in the course of the last year, which just a couple of years ago would have been unimaginable, because you really did see a massive drop in the footfalls in cinemas. So that's really, really good news, I think, for the entire industry, that cinema is back and it's here to stay.
Siddharth, congratulations. You will soon be receiving the Motion Picture Association Copyright Educator of the Year award at CineAsia this year. Tell us a little bit about the growing importance of copyright in an evolving creators landscape and some critical issues that need to be addressed.
Well, to start with, I'd like to thank the MPA for this huge honor, and I'm so happy to receive this award. It means a lot to me. Copyright, of course, is something that we all know is really the fundamental base on which all creative expression is rewarded. It is very important that it is respected, and that it is given its due, because that is really the only way in which, for creators, for producers, for filmmakers, for artists, for any in any art form, to be able to preserve the integrity of their creative expression. It has been something that I think has had to deal with a lot of challenges over the last few decades. You've had piracy at all levels impacting the creative industry so significantly. And I think all the efforts that have been made over the last few decades to be able to communicate that piracy is actually theft and is actually is a criminal act, have been really, really important. And I'd like to give a lot of credit to all the associations like the MPA, like the Producers Guild of India, and so many other bodies that have really worked so hard to be able to bring the message across that really copyright protection is really the key fundamental on which our entire commercial enterprise within the creative industry, is based. I'd like to laud the government's efforts over the last few months in coming up with more bite to the anti-piracy measures that have already been in place, with adding certain amount of deterrent that was required, by making sure that it is upfront in the public discourse. But I think a whole lot more can be done. We might have accepted that there will be a certain level of piracy that we have to live with, but I think it's so important that we're able to minimize that as we go forward and make sure that it's kept to, is kept really strictly under check. Because the more we can keep that in control, the more we're able to protect the integrity of our work, the more money will flow into the system, the more we'll be able to produce more great work. And really, it's about really protecting the integrity of both the cinematic art form and art forms across so many different disciplines.
How has the amendment to the Cinematograph Act benefited film ratings?
For a long time, I think the industry has, had an issue with there just being an a UA, and a U classification, because there is more nuance to creative work than that. And I think adding the graduated age ratings, that have come into place at the time that the act was passed recently, will help to more closely and sharply define what pieces of work are viewable by what age groups. And I think that is very important, because having one blanket UA really dilutes the impact of being able to give the right classification to films that might be quite significantly different across the spectrum. A film that's acceptable for a 13 and above to watch might be very different to what a 17 and above might be able to watch. And I think it was very important to be able to not lump them both under the UA classification.
The last few years have seen a growth in consumption of international content by Indian audiences, especially on streaming services. What has fueled this adoption?
In terms of the international content?
Yes.
I think just the accessibility of the amount of content that today people are able to watch across platforms. The pandemic obviously accelerated the rate of this adoption, because people were pretty much at home. That was the only mode of entertainment. They were able to explore content from all kinds of languages, both from in their own country as well as around the world. So I think, therefore, the experience of now being exposed to that much more cinema, series, all kinds of content, short format content from around the world, has really led to a broadening of the tastes and sensibilities of our audiences. And I think that is wonderful. The world has truly become flat in that sense. So it's great, because it adds a lot more competition to our lives, because now we have to compete against the best from around the world, which is accessible at the click of a button. But in a way, it's a great challenge to have, because that really means that you have to stand up and put your best foot forward to ensure that people are watching you and not something else.
So continuing the question, with increased accessibility, therefore, to content, how do you think Indian storytelling and content productions can evolve to capture audiences abroad?
If we can be authentic and tell our stories to the world in an unabashed way, not be self-conscious about our style of filmmaking and our aesthetic, really embrace the way that we want to tell our stories, then I think that's the best way to be able to cross over to non-South Asian audiences. The moment you try to reverse engineer it and try to create a crossover, piece of content, you tend not to have an audience either here or there. So just make something from the heart, make it with complete authenticity, make it with complete passion and drive and commitment. And invariably, if it is able to touch a chord in a human being somewhere else who might not have had the same cultural, experiences as you growing up, but is still a human being who experiences the same emotions, it's bound to find its place. I'll give you the example of a film like Dangal, which I have given many times before. We made that film really for an Indian and a South Asian audience. It's not like we were trying to reach out to the world. We just were trying to tell a real, authentic story. But the fact that film was appreciated in China to the extent that it was, and went on to do $200 million in that market, just tells you that despite what you would imagine to be a very different, cultural upbringing, the fact that here was this patriarch who grew in the course of the film to now having to live his dreams through his daughters instead of his sons, I think touched a chord. And you couldn't get more rooted and authentic than that. But something so, what you would consider uniquely rooted in one village in the north of India, was able to reach out to audiences all across the length and breadth of China. So that's just one example of how, if you create something with complete conviction and are true to your aesthetic and your sensibility, that has the best chance of crossing over.
The Ministry of Information and Broadcasting announced yesterday a raise of up to 40% in incentives for foreign films and co-productions. What are your views on the impact of this raise on the creative economy?
I just read about that this morning, and I thought it's a tremendous step forward. It's a significant increase to what films were being offered in the past. And if it's implemented in the way it should be, I think it will be a massive boost to the amount of production that can take place in India. So I give a lot of credit to the ministry for going ahead and doing this. And I'm hoping that means that, our doors are now going to be that much more open and welcoming to productions from all over the world to come here and shoot.
How do you think India can promote co-productions and film incentives for local producers?
I think, we've made some steps forward, but if the process can be much more streamlined, you can have single window clearances across the board and make sure that, you don't need multiple permissions to be taken. You can have one central body that really gives you the right to be able to shoot across the country. The Archaeological Survey of India, if the SI can be quite open about being able to shoot across all the important spots in the country that are unique and distinctive and beautiful and culturally significant. And of course, if production incentives can be given more by more states to encourage producers to come there and shoot, these are all the things that really can be done. Some of it is being done already, and I think there's always you can always improve upon things, and I'm sure that will happen in the years to come.
In your experience, have you seen any state where you've had a great filming experiences where permissions are given on the spot, incentives are available?
Well, I think actually Uttarakhand has done a lot of work in becoming a state that is easy to film in. So I'd give them a lot of credit. There are lots of states across the country who are trying to open up their doors, but I think Uttarakhand is one which has made a very concerted effort to do so.
What role do you think AI will play in the production process? Is it something that will replace current skill sets or add a layer and serve as a tool for it?
I'm one of those people who don't believe that human beings can be replaced. I think these are tools that can be used to our benefit, and I'm pretty optimistic that if they are harnessed the right way and used the right way, they can actually improve our storytelling abilities significantly. We should embrace technology. There's no point running away from it, because the more you try to run away from it, the more that you will not be able to harness it for the right reasons, and the more scared you'll be to sort of adopt it and embrace it, and the more the world will run ahead of you. So I think if you study the history of mankind, the movement has always been towards going forward with technology rather than trying to undo things that have already been discovered or invented. There is a part of it that is something that we really don't know. There are the unknown unknowns in that sense, that most people are not able to predict where those things will go. But I think if the right regulations and the right regulatory environment around AI is in place, and it can be harnessed for the best use of storytelling, both in writing, in world creation, in character building, in set construction, in storytelling, those are all areas where I feel AI can be of tremendous help.
How can young filmmakers walk the fine line between commerce and art?
Well, I think not just young filmmakers, but older filmmakers also find it equally tricky to walk that fine line. But that's the beauty of show business, right? It's show and it's business. You've got the art and you've got the commerce, and that beautiful nervous tension between art and commerce is what actually sometimes creates the best work. I think if you go too far in one direction, you tend to become too much of just one thing, and you maybe will not work. Something that you make purely with a commercial mindset without having an artistic lens might turn out to be hollow and dry. And something that you make only purely with an artistic mindset without thinking about the audience might turn out to be something which is pretty much the same, hollow and dry, and something that doesn't appeal to people. The best cinema, to my mind, is where there is a creator presenting their artistic vision in a way where they want to actively draw audiences into it, and where they are very cognizant of wanting people to come in and either be engaged or entertained and feel the emotions that they intend them to feel, whether that's sadness or joy or laughter or whatever it might be. But those are the best ways in which art and commerce can intersect and create something of great beauty that does wonderfully well commercially, but is also applauded artistically.
Well said. What are some of the exciting projects you're currently working on and that we can look forward to?
So we've had 2 releases over the last 2 months. We had Pippa release on Amazon Prime Video on November 10th, which is a film based around the 71 war, film very close to all our hearts, because it tells the story of a just war that India went in and fought to liberate another nation. So that can be seen on Amazon Prime. And then we had a film called Tumse Na Ho Payega, which is on Disney Hotstar. which is really an ode to the younger generation trying to find their feet in the hustle and bustle of the startup culture of today. So two very different films released in the last 2 months that I hope you can enjoy. We've got a film called Deva, which is an action thriller that's on the floors now. Shahid Kapoor and Pooja Hegde. Roshan Andrews is directing it. That releases next Dussehra. So that is under production at this point of time. And then we've got a bunch of series that we're working on that we'll be announcing at the right time. So those announcements will happen as we go forward. And we're developing a global series based on the Anarchy, which is basically William Dalrymple's book about the East India Company in India. That, of course, is a very ambitious project that we want to tell in the right way. So that's in the writing stage at this point of time.
So obviously you're going to keep very, very busy. So thank you so much for taking out time to, speak with us. And as usual, you're always very inspiring. Thank
Always
you,
a
Sid.
pleasure, Amrita. Thank you.